What's up, everybody? I'm Flash. This is One Man's Opinion, the show where we cover just about everything. And today, we're talking about my top 10 most despicable Disney villains. Now, anybody is on the table for this list, all right? We're going to be looking at a lot of Disney villains, and if someone that you think should be on this list isn't on this list, let me hear it down in the comments below. I went through as many Disney villains as I can think of, and I have my reasons for the 10 that I ended up with. I graded them on a couple of different categories. I'll kind of cover some of those as we go through and talk about them. Also, before I reveal my number one, I will be going through a handful of honorable mentions, so maybe one of your picks will be on that list also. Some of the things that I'm looking for is the overall, evil factor. Just how evil and despicable were these guys? What kind of impact did they have on our hero? What kind of impact did they have on our story? Also, I think it's important to note what kind of impact did they have on the viewer, the person watching it? What emotions do they bring out in you? And also the lasting impressions, okay? What is the legacy left behind by these villains? So with those things in mind, here comes my list for the top 10 most despicable Disney villains. Coming in at number 10 is Jafar. Now look, I'm a huge Aladdin fan, and by no means is this list in order of my favorite Disney movies at all. Aladdin is one of my all-time favorites. Absolutely love it, and it's due to, in large part, an incredible villain that we get from Jafar. Now, I would say that there are a lot of Disney villains who have done worse things than Jafar. Ultimately, Jafar doesn't really kill anyone, right? You could say he kind of has a man killed right at the beginning of the first movie. He doesn't really take his life himself. And you could even argue that it wasn't Jafar's intention for the man to die in the first place. He was just after the lamp. He wanted the man to actually succeed and get out of the cave alive so that he could get the lamp. Jafar on that level of evilness is not as bad as some of the others on the list, and that's why he's only coming in at number 10. However, his impact on the hero, his impact on the viewer, his lasting impression as a villain is undeniable, and he beats out some of the other villains that could have possibly taken this 10 spot because of his willingness to dirty his own hands. Jafar has some henchmen, but there are other Disney villains. They require a lot of assistance to get their evil deeds done. At the end of the day, Jafar does have Iago, but he's pretty much the man pulling the strings. Yeah, the guards work for him a little bit, sure, but those guys are not even hard. They're barely threats. Jafar is a mastermind. The dude is an evil sorcerer. The dude is going after the throne. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty, and for that reason, he comes in at number 10 on our list.
A snake am I. Perhaps you'd like to see how snake-like I can be.
Coming in at number 9 is an absolute classic, Lady Tremaine. Lady Tremaine from Cinderella is a truly despicable person with just an outright evil look. Her look leaves a lasting impression on me. Even as a kid, you know, this older woman was mean. She was cruel. She's not afraid to knock anybody out of her way as she tries to climb to the top. Some people have even argued that perhaps she killed Cinderella's father. I don't think it would be entirely out of character for her to do so, though some argue that they believe she actually did love Cinderella's father. So there is a little bit of a sinister presence there if she did indeed kill Cinderella's father. I don't think it's beyond, reasonable doubt, seeing as her whole motive seems to be control over others, a hunger for power and greed. She will go through any lengths to make sure that one of her daughters marries the prince so that she can continue to climb a social status ladder. The lady is just flat out cruel and enslaves her own stepdaughter. And you can say maybe she killed Cinderella's father. If indeed she did that, that makes her absolutely evil and gives her a notch in her belt that Jafar doesn't quite have. But even if she didn't kill Cinderella's father, then that means she's evil enough to enslave the daughter of the man she loves, which in my opinion is almost just as bad. This woman is cruel. She's got an evil look. She's got eyes that'll just haunt you at night. This lady is a great villain and an absolute classic.
After all, we did make a bargain, didn't we, Cinderella? And I never go back on my word.
Coming in at number 8 is a similar villain in the Disney world, and that is Mother Gothel. Mother Gothel is very similar to Lady Tremaine in that she sort of kidnaps a young girl. But Gothel gets the edge over Lady Tremaine because Gothel goes beyond just enslaving Rapunzel. Gothel kidnaps Rapunzel as a baby and then raises her and gaslights her. Mother Gothel is the ultimate gaslighter. She completely gaslights Rapunzel her entire life, making her believe that Mother Gothel is the only person in her life that cares for her, making her believe she has to live this solitary life and that the world is an evil, evil place, and that Mother Gothel is the only person in the world that could possibly care for her. Her manipulation is above and beyond. Like, Lady Tremaine sure was evil, and yeah, she had Cinderella clean up, and used her as kind of slave labor. Mother Gothel stole this girl, lied to her about her entire existence, and used her only to keep herself young. It is super self-serving, and for that reason, the despicable Mother Gothel, while not having quite the lasting impact, I don't think she'll have the lasting impact that Lady Tremaine had or has had to this point. I think she's close enough, and her evil deeds take her a step above Lady Tremaine.
You want me to be the bad guy? Fine. Now I'm the bad guy.
Now at number 7, we come in and we have the OG coming in right here, the Evil Queen. The Evil Queen is sort of the most extreme version of these women. She is the one that will absolutely murder to get what she wants. Mother Gothel, probably not killing anybody to get what she wants. Maybe she kills someone to get what she wants. Lady Tremaine, maybe she kills someone to get what she wants. All these women, maybe. Evil Queen cares not at all. She will absolutely murder another woman just because a mirror said this chick was better looking than her. Like, it is wild the extent she will go to. She has magic at her disposal. She uses the apple. One bite is all it takes, and Snow White is down for the count. And that is the end of it right there until Snow White is rescued later on. And so the Evil Queen, because of her evil acts, her lasting impression, she is the OG. She deserves the respect as one of the most despicable villains of all time in Disney, coming in at a respectable number 7.
He'll be buried alive!
Number 6 comes a villain that I think a lot of people overlook, and I know why a lot of people overlook, but this dude is straight up evil. From his evil acts to his lasting impressions, I think this dude really is an underdog in the evil category, and that's my man Hades from Hercules. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Hades is sort of a goofball, and yes, he's portrayed by James Woods, and James Woods gives a very charismatic performance as Hades, and I think it's because of that charismatic performance that you don't really understand the lengths that Hades is willing to go to take over absolutely everything. Hades puts the entire planet at risk by unleashing the Titans so that he can take over Mount Olympus. He absolutely tries to have a baby murdered. Hercules loses his power, but that was not the intention. He sends pain and panic in with a bottle of poison. Every last drop kills the baby. The baby is dead. He is trying to kill his brother at the end of the movie to take over Mount Olympus. He will put the entire planet at risk so that he can be king of Olympus. It is absolutely insane the lengths that this man will go to. And while he is charismatic, he is funny, you do enjoy watching him when you really step back and think about the things that Hades was willing to do and the things that he did do. He did poison that baby. He did have Zeus locked up, there for a second. He did unleash the Titans. This man was not playing around. And even though he is a funny character, he also enslaved a young girl in Meg. And so, like anything that another Disney villain has done or attempted to do, Hades is kind of the guy who has already done it and combined it with all the other bad things that all the other villains attempt. He is slept on, and if it wasn't for a charismatic performance in a fun-loving Disney-style film, Hades would be looked at as a much more vile villain than he's given credit for. Number 6, Hades.
The one schlemiel who can last it up is waltzing around in the way.
Coming in at number 5, I feel like we have a similar sort of personality, a similar sort of vibe. It was a charismatic performance. Number 5, I've got Syndrome from The Incredibles. Syndrome is another guy who I don't think a lot of people consider when they're looking at who was truly really villainous. But if you think about it, Syndrome got snubbed by Mr. Incredible once when he was a child and became an absolute supervillain because of it. And we like to think, well, yeah, but Syndrome was kind of a bumbling idiot who had some decent technology. And yeah, you're right. That's why he doesn't rank super high on this list. But if you actually pay attention to the story, I know it's kind of glossed over in a pretty quick scene that I think most of us are familiar with. But if you actually pay attention to the story, Syndrome killed many, many superheroes with his robot. This man was willing to take down every superhero. He murdered superheroes just to get his robot strong enough to face Mr. Incredible. Like, he was willing to kill anyone who got in his way just to make sure he could reach his goals by the end of the movie. And so while, yeah, he is kind of a goofball, he is kind of a bumbling idiot at times. You know, if you take his tech away, he's immediately completely vulnerable. That's all true, and that's why he doesn't make it very high. But his merciless murder of multiple superheroes is definitely indication of how sinister of a villain that this man was. And just because he has that kind of bumbling idiot persona from time to time, I don't think that anybody should really sleep on Syndrome or look past how truly evil this dude was. He even had an evil layer inside of a volcano. I mean, that is like typical, that's like peak villainy right there.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
Okay, when we get beyond number 5, these top four are particularly despicable, particularly disgusting. Anybody below this, I could see the argument. I could see you saying, oh, so-and-so deserves to be on this list. Oh, this person deserves to be on this list. And you know what? I get it. There was a lot to choose from here. And if your favorite villain wasn't on this list, I understand. But these top 4, I don't see how anybody could have a different top 4. Coming in at number 4 from the movie Pinocchio, we have The Coachman. And The Coachman was in contention for number 1 position. There's one reason that held him off, but first let's talk about The Coachman a little bit. The Coachman is an evil, evil human being who steals children. He gets them drunk. He takes them to this island where, this pleasure island where they can have whatever they want. And while they're there, they are turned into mules and sold into slavery. It's actually disgusting. Like, it's crazy that this was ever even in a children's movie. When you're watching it as a kid, I don't think you really understand. Like, watching it as an adult is more horrifying than it was when I watched it as a kid. This dude, some even speculate that he's actually a demon because the way his face transforms. He is undoubtedly one of the most disgusting and heinous villains in all of Disney. And the only reason he's not higher on this list is because Pinocchio doesn't really have a true antagonist. And he's not in the movie particularly long. So his lasting impression isn't particularly good. He's not the centerpiece. He's not the main focus as far as a villain goes of this movie. He has a pretty decent sized part, but it's more of just something that propels Pinocchio forward in his story. The things he did, the evils, the atrocities he committed are 10 out of 10. It doesn't get more vile than The Coachman, which is why he makes it to number 4, but because of his lack of impact, he can't go any higher.
They never come back as boys.
Coming in at number 3, and this one is one that I even slept on, and the more I thought about it, the more I couldn't get by it. And this is Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil from the 101 Dalmatians is actually insane. She's scary. Like, every box you could tick for an evil person, an evil villain, Cruella de Vil is that. Number 1, she skins dogs. And you don't mess with dogs, man. You don't mess with dogs. There's a level right there. Dogs are so innocent. We love our dogs. Beyond that, she's scary. She is a lasting impact. Like, when that woman is driving that car on fire at the end of the movie, that scared me as a kid. The look in her eyes is frightening. Beyond that, she will absolutely kill someone to get her fur coat. And if you look at what she gets out of it, like, it's one thing to try to kill somebody so that you can take over a kingdom. It's another thing to try to kill somebody just so you can catch some dogs and skin them alive so that you can have a nice fur coat. Like, it's crazy the lengths she will go to get a nice fur coat. And she absolutely will come kill someone without hesitation to do so. She tries to run a dude off the road at the end of the movie. It's clearly like a high-speed thing that could easily have killed someone, and she does not care. She is after those dogs, man. Nah, Cruella, she checks all the boxes, and if it wasn't for two particularly disgusting individuals, she would have easily taken that number 1 position.
I'll get even. Just wait. You'll be sorry. You fools. You idiots.
But coming in at number 2 is the whole reason that we made this list. We're talking about Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. I've talked about this guy in other videos, and so I'll try to keep it brief. Frollo is a truly deplorable human being, a man who is obsessed with himself. His arrogance is unmatched. His obsession with Esmeralda is disgusting. This man will literally burn down all of Paris. He will burn families alive inside their homes to get information about her. Even if the family doesn't know anything about her, he will absolutely kill Phoebus in a heartbeat for disobeying a single order, that order being to kill a family in their homes. And when Phoebus doesn't do that, he has Phoebus killed, or he attempts to have Phoebus killed. The dude will absolutely murder Esmeralda, burn her alive at the stake for not being with him. The man is an absolutely disgusting human being. He 100% killed Esmeralda's mother. He was 100% going to kill her as a baby if not stopped by the bishop of the church. There is no lengths that he will not go to get whatever it is that he wants. And he says as much in his song, clearly states, Esmeralda will be mine or she will burn. Later says, I will burn down all of Paris if I have to have her. And completely comes through. It's one thing for a villain to say he's going to do something or say that she's going to do something. It's another thing to see a villain follow through on the despicable things that they want to do just to get their way. And Frollo absolutely embodies it.
I'll find her. I'll find her if I have to burn down all of Paris.
And is beaten out for the number 1 position by only one person. But before that, we're going to talk about some honorable mentions. Honorable mentions, Maleficent. Maleficent's a great villain. Any villain that can transform into a dragon, very cool. Unfortunately, being cool wasn't really enough to put you on this list. Maleficent really doesn't do anything terribly horrible. Like, Sleeping Beauty pretty much puts herself to sleep by pricking her own finger on the spinning wheel. I know she had a movie that kind of turned her into the main character and told her story a little bit, but even not taking that into consideration, Maleficent never seemed to be on the same level of evil as some of the other villains on this list. I think she's really dope, but for me, she just didn't really quite make it there. Shan Yu from Mulan is a villain who certainly committed a lot of evil, a lot of acts of violence, attempted genocide, was absolutely prepared to kill as many people as humanly possible. And for a long time, I thought maybe that's enough to put him on this list at top 10. But he doesn't really have much of a lasting impact, and he doesn't really have much of an impact on the story of Mulan or on the main character until the very end. He is the driving force. He's the reason that the Mulan story takes place, but he's never a very present villain. He's more of just a vehicle through which Mulan can grow. Mulan's real adversary in this movie is herself, and it's a story of her learning to overcome her own limitations. She kind of grows and becomes more than she believes that she can, and kind of overcomes social norms of being a woman in the military, sort of a Joan of Arc from the East, if you will. It's a great story, but Shan Yu is not, he's not a lasting or memorable villain, and is more or less just there to give Mulan a villain to face at the end of the movie. Other villains that I thought about putting on here, obviously Hook is a huge villain in Disney. He's been around for a long time. The older I get, the more I side with him, though. It's kind of like, just leave the dude alone. You know, if I had a bunch of immortal kids that were constantly messing with me and my crew, I might be pretty ornery about it myself, you know what I mean? And so, like, the older I get, the more I'm like, you know what, Peter Pan's kind of annoying, so I get it. Like, I know I'm making a joke about it, but honestly, I don't think Hook is, like, the worst of the worst. And then there were two others that I considered alongside of Jafar, and that's Yzma from Emperor's New Groove and Prince John from Robin Hood. Both of these two had a similar motive as Jafar did. They wanted to take over a kingdom. The real dividing line for me is that Prince John was a coward who had his men kind of do everything for him, and Yzma similarly had Kronk. Yzma was willing to kill Cusco, absolutely, in the same way that Jafar was willing to kill Aladdin. But Jafar being the guy who actually got his hands dirty and actually did all the dirty work, Yzma rarely, at the very end of the movie, she kind of got her hands dirty a little bit more. But her reliance on Kronk, I think, for me, she just wasn't as frightening a villain as Jafar was. Jafar slightly a little bit more cunning, I think, and kind of edged her out. So those are my 5 honorable mentions. Let me know in the comments if you have any others. And if you're paying attention at all, there's one name that clearly belongs on this list that I haven't said yet. Our number 1, Scar. Scar from The Lion King is the most despicable villain of all time in Disney. And you can say, how can he be more despicable than Frollo or than Coachman or Cruella? And you know what? All these people did horrible things. Some of them killed people. Some of them went after dogs. Some of them went after babies. Some of them were incredibly self-serving. Scar did all of that. He did it all. And he didn't only just do it to somebody. He did it to his own family. And there's a particular level of disgust I have for someone who's willing to not only do these things, but to do them to their own family. Only Hades on this list went after their own family, and Hades failed. Scar did it. Scar murdered his own brother to take over Pride Rock. Not only did he murder his own brother, but he blamed a child for it. He blamed a child and made Simba believe, his own nephew, he made Simba believe that it was his fault that his father had died.
But the king is dead. And if it weren't for you, he'd still be alive.
So much so that he told him, "What will your mother think?"
What will your mother think?
What am I gonna do?
I mean, just say that to a child. Your mother is never going to forgive you for this. You're never going to live this down. You have to run away.
Run away, Simba. Run. Run away and never return.
And then, as he's running, he sends the hyenas to kill him.
Kill him.
And if the hyenas had caught him, that's the end of the movie. That's it. Scar wins right there. He was ruthless. The man was absolutely ruthless and despicably evil. It's one thing to burn down all of Paris, a bunch of people you don't really even know. It's another thing to take the lives of your own family members, to bury a child's motivations before he's even old enough to understand what had happened. To completely fill a child's head with the thought that it's your fault your dad died, your mom's going to hate you forever, you have no place at your home anymore, you have to run away because you did this. And as this child is fleeing in an absolute depressing, traumatizing event in his life, send hyenas to go kill him. Take over Pride Rock, run all the food, essentially kill all the living creatures in Pride Rock. Because at the end of the movie, they are in a famine because there's no food left. They've hunted all the food. The herds have moved on. They can't live here anymore. They've eaten too much. Like, it's crazy what all Scar did and what he was willing to do, even up until the very end, continuing to lie, continuing to manipulate Simba, trying to tell him things that weren't true. Scar is a despicable, disgusting villain. He is my favorite villain, probably. Well, I will say Lion King's my favorite movie, so maybe I'm a little biased. But Scar, in my opinion, is unmatched.
For the death of the king!
Is he sick?
No, fool, we're gonna kill him. And Simba, too.
Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. I'm sorry this video was so long, but I had some things I wanted to talk about with each one of these individuals. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Let me know what you thought. I want to hear your top 10 in the comments down below, or you can just let me know what character I left off the list that you would have had on the list and where in the ranking you would have put them. I'm very interested to hear your input on this. Let me hear it in the comments down below. Thank you guys for hanging out. And if you didn't like my list and you thought that it wasn't very good, don't get mad. Remember, it's just one man's opinion. Thanks.